Welcome to Bringing Back the Wild. In each episode, Mike Arnold explores how science, tradition, and hands-on conservation come together to protect the wild places and wildlife we care about. Your host, Mike Arnold, is a professor of genetics, a lifelong hunter, and a conservation biologist. On this podcast, Mike dives into the science and stories behind bringing wildlife species back and keeping wild places wild. Sponsors of Bringing Back the Wild are Dallas Safari Club, conserving wildlife, engaging the public, ensuring the future. Zambezi Delta Safaris, protecting wildlife, empowering communities, and defining adventure. Royal Outfitters UK, tradition in the field and excellence in the hunt. Lifeform Taxidermy, guardian of the hunter's dreams. Choctaw Hunting Lodge, native land, exceptional wildlife, and unforgettable hunts. And Dorchester Shooting Preserve, create memories that last generations. And now, here's your host, Mike Arnold.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to let you know that July is another special month with a bonus episode. So we'll have 3 episodes of Bringing Back the Wild. The first episode for July is with a dear friend of mine, Ed Pham. Ed immigrated to the United States from post-war Vietnam. Ed speaks about the freedoms that he encountered here and his wonder at the abundance that he saw here, as well as the opportunity to be in the outdoors and to love hunting, fishing, and other sports. So in celebrating our 250th year of this wonderful country, Ed's interview is very appropriate. Welcome to Bringing Back the Wild, podcast where we talk about conservation, shooting, hunting, and today we're even going to talk a little bit about fishing, something that I'm terrible at, but that my buddy who's talking to us today is wonderful at. I see all of his posts on Facebook of amazing fish. So we'll get to that. But my buddy is Ed Pham, and Ed is going to walk us through some of his personal history of getting to the U.S., but also how he became such a accomplished sportsman. Ed, welcome to Bringing Back the Wild.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
As I mentioned to you, I'd like you to walk our listeners through how you came to the United States and how you got interested in the shooting sports.
How long is the show? It might take.
Hey, we can break this up into multiple episodes, brother, so don't you worry about that.
I understand. Mike, again, thank you so much for having me on here. And of course, hello to everybody. I appreciate being here and to walk you through the process. I was born and raised in Vietnam. And after the fall of Saigon in 1975, my father, who was in the South Vietnamese army, was evacuated back here to the United States. Long story short, after 10 years, Dad went MIA, right? We didn't know where he was, and it was very challenging to grow up in a post-war era. I remember the times where we honestly did not know when we're going to get to eat our next meal. And so I remember once a week you go to the city and they would issue so much food per family. It's usually dry up yucca or dry up corn, and that's what you would eat. So I think innately growing up in an environment like that, I became the natural hunter and gatherer of whatever you can get to bring home and be able to provide to your family. So fast forward to 1984, I came here to the United States of America with the green card in the back of my pocket and didn't speak a word of English. I remember landing at Newark International Airport, and for the first time in my life, I've seen so many vehicles and so many lights. And I remember saying to myself, God, this gotta be what heaven looks like, because it's like, yeah.
And who met you when you landed in the U.S.?
It was Dad and a bunch of his friends. They did a big article in the newspaper for a reunion of a family from a Vietnam War. Dad left when I was 2 years old, so I don't remember what Dad looks like. And when he finally contacted us after 10 years, knowing that if he would have contacted us prior to that, the Viet Cong would have came in and execute us on the spot just because that's something that is allowed, especially right after the war. So you have to follow strict order. You cannot pray to Jesus. You cannot pray to Buddha. You want to pray to anyone, you pray and thank to Uncle Ho, who have blessed you and reunite our motherland from the north and the south to make it one. And it's this pretty different environment than here.
And so where did you settle first? Where was your dad?
New Jersey. He worked for General Motors, and he had a job up there in Roosevelt Park, New Jersey. It's where we first came to the United States.
I'm not sure that you got to see the best of the United States when you first landed. New Jersey, by the way, for all of my listeners who are in New Jersey, I've done a lot of field work, biological field work in New Jersey. I understand y'all's state is gorgeous once you get away from that corridor. Okay, so I'm not poking fun at New Jersey. So walk us through then. Did you bounce around some between New Jersey and Atlanta?
I came to New Jersey, went to school there, and as I got to the point where I said, okay, I need to make a decision what I wanted to do in college or after high school. And my whole family were military. So my first reflex would be, I'm going to join the military. And Dad said, son, I had to sleep many nights with my rifle next to me to give you the opportunity to go to school. Why don't you consider that? So I said, okay, I'm going to go and give it all I got.
So what was the biggest transition for you?
That's a lot, but I remember a couple of things that stood out in my mind and it's profound. And the first is freedom, first and foremost. If we were in Vietnam and you came to visit us and we didn't report you to the city police and they do a roll call at 2:00 in the morning and you happen to be at my home, they would arrest you and put you in jail because we did not announce your arrival and your intention to be there and how long you're going to be there. And that happened regularly. So number one is freedom. Number two, I remember my father took us into a grocery store. It was like a Walmart, let's say per se, right? The door opens and oh my gosh, look at all the resources. Look at all this food. How is this possible? Such abundance. I have never seen a person able to sit down and eat a chicken all by themselves because that chicken can feed a whole family for several meals. And this is incredible, mind-boggling, right? This is the land of plenty for sure.
This podcast proudly sponsored by Royal Outfitters UK, a family-run operation that believes great hunting is rooted in tradition, stewardship, and hospitality. Joe Crute's lifetime in the field, combined with years managing elite estates, means he and his staff conduct every hunt with respect for the land, the game, and the sporting heritage of the UK. From pheasant and grouse to native deer species, Royal Outfitters UK delivers ethical, well-managed hunts across England and Scotland. What truly sets them apart is preparation. Royal Outfitters UK carefully plan, thoroughly research, and personalize each hunt down to the smallest detail, ensuring that when you step into the field, you're free to focus on the experience itself. Royal Outfitters UK doesn't just host hunts. They create sporting memories that endure long after the season ends. So Now, how did you get to Atlanta?
I initially wanted to go to school to become an engineer. And shortly after going into taking courses for engineering and then talking to different professionals, I discovered really fast that's not where my heart is. That's not where my passion is. And I said, okay, I want to make a difference. I want to be able to help humanity. I want to be able to be put anywhere in the world and I'll be able to go and do something significant. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to be a doctor, but I just didn't know which kind or what specialty. So I went and visited a surgeon, orthopedic doctor, surgeon, family physician, all kind of specialists, and a chiropractor. And I was like, these are all great professions. Now, if I was a surgeon, I would need the sterile rooms and the equipment and all the tools to make that happen. If I was a family physician, I would need medicine. But if I'm a chiropractor, they can put me anywhere, any jungle, anywhere in the world, and I can go to work right away and help people. And so the philosophy of chiropractic and how it operates resonated with me. And so I went down to Live University, did not know anyone down here. I have a buddy that came down here early, so that's the only person. And I went down here and went to school to become a doctor of chiropractic, and I was able to achieve that. I didn't speak a word of English when I first came here, right? Through God's grace and the Southern hospitality, I fell in love with the people and the culture.
It's not easy to be a small business person. Was that a difficult journey for you?
I think it's just how God put the plan out in my life. Nothing ever come easy, nothing. But because I earn it, I work harder. And because I work harder, I retain and appreciate it so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was very challenging. And I moved into a town that I was the only minority in town. So, but I invested in the community. And I fell in love with the Southern hospitality. Southern hospitality is a real thing. And if you never experienced it, you should, because it's amazing, true, genuine love and caring for another person.
There is a Southern hospitality, plus the fact we have grits.
When I first went to a studio apartment, I couldn't afford to rent a big place. So I rented a basement studio apartment from this family. And I got up the following morning, found a note with a fresh big loaf of banana nut bread. And it says, welcome to your new home. We hope you like it here. I was like, where do you find these people? I love them.
Now, what was your first step into the outdoors in the United States? Was it fishing? Was it hunting? Was it shooting? What did you pick up? Because I know you do all of those things.
Right. Part of that is doing the scout training in my younger days, went on a Boy Scout and learned how to fish and hunt and shoot. And just naturally, eye-hand coordination were great. And I was able to excel in those skills and just fell in love with it. While my friends were going on expensive vacations during the school breaks, I would go to North Georgia and go fly fishing or go hunting and just fell in love. It's a beautiful state where we get 4 seasons and really enjoy the nature.
What was your first game animal that you took? A large game animal?
A white-tailed deer.
And was that here in Georgia?
Was.
Okay. And what was your first firearm that you owned here in the United States?
I still have it. It's a Ruger M77 in a .270 caliber. Stainless steel synthetic that I bought at Walmart.
Is that what you took your deer with?
It was, yeah. One of my patients loaned me a deer stand, a portable climber, and I went out in the dark, being the rookie mistake, right? I didn't walk around the whole tree to see if there's a branch sticking out somewhere. So I get maybe 8 feet up and there's a branch. But I'm up here, might as well enjoy it. I sat there and was listening to country music, Shania Twain singing. And all of a sudden I looked down and there was 4 deer. And I was like, oh my gosh, how are you able to get here without me hearing you or seeing you? I was just totally amazed and yeah, just fell in love. It was amazing the first time I harvest something that big. And right there and then I made up my mind. I said, look, I have to draw a line to say that I'm okay with this. Because if I'm not okay with this, I'm going to go home and give all my stuff away and never do this again. But understand that what I'm doing here is to provide and bless my family and friends with the meat from what I've just harvested. And I decided to cross that line and never look back again.
So did you process your own deer, by the way?
Yeah. Yeah. I would some help with friends because I was really new. I didn't know what to do. But the funny thing is that the non-hunter would go out to the grocery store and buy all this organic stuff. Yeah. And the animal running free out here.
Let's talk about something that I know is near and dear to your heart. Talk to me about your fishing. How did you get into fly fishing? Because I bet you weren't doing that in Vietnam, and then all the other kinds of fishing you do.
I'm glutton for punishment. You know, the level of difficulty with fishing, at first you want to go catch a fish and then you catch a lot of fish and you want to catch a big fish. And then afterward, you want to make it more difficult to catch that fish just because the art of fly fishing is a never ending progress that you have to work and hone your skill and fine tune because what you're doing is you're presenting an artificial fly that's made out of feather and fur to mimic an insect to move the right way. And the pattern and the shape and the legs and the eyes have to look just like a real thing, right? And you're presenting it and making it move like a real insect or a bait or a fish for the big fish to take. So for that to happen, oh my goodness, you make that sport so much harder. But there is a passion and love within that. If that's what you love and that you love a challenge, that's for you. And that's what I learned to love and learn to share that with people.
What is your favorite type of fishing then? Is it fly fishing?
It is. I primarily do some of I love fishing, right? Regardless of what equipment a person decide to use. Just love being out there, the fresh water, the sound, the smell, the feel, like some spot you walk up and you're like, oh, I feel it. It's just not happening. But fly fishing is just a lot more challenging. Again, you have to present it a certain way and to be able to fight a fish with a very small rod. So technique is critical to be able to land a fish. Last year, I was able to land a really great tarpon, and that was huge. I did not know, but after doing some research, less than 1% of fly fishermen ever land a face grab, as they call it, a giant tarpon.
All right, let's flip back to hunting for a moment and explain to me your journey leading you to love hunting hogs.
At one time, I held the world record for a Russian boar for 700 something pounds. We hunted with dogs and we use spears and we use knives and we would go and hunt it at night with a headlamp, some dog and a 12-inch blade, and the dog would bay the hogs and would release the cat's dog, which usually is a big male pit bull with Kevlar, and go in there and hit the hog and we'll jump in when there's such thing as a save time and take care of business. But that was something I did a lot younger, many years ago. I love the nighttime hog hunting. They're such destructive animal. They would destroy a lot of farmland and crops. Gosh, millions and millions of dollars of damaged crop each year from these hogs. And we're infested with them here in the state of Georgia.
And do you utilize the meat from these?
100%. We would definitely like to take that again, go home and bless and share with our family, friends. And in my personal home, we always have a feast of whatever it is, whether it's hog meat, alligator, venison, elk, meat, whatever. We'll cook and invite all kind of friends over and we'll eat and we'll share the story of the hunt and Everybody loves it.
You mentioned something that a lot of people haven't had. I've lived in Louisiana and worked in southern Louisiana. Alligator was sometimes on the menu. Talk to us about that, because what a fascinating hunt as well. They have to be controlled just like every other animal for their own good, as well as conservation of other habitats and animals.
To me, alligator hunting is almost like fishing and hunting combined. How we did it was they would have a big hook, piece of meat, whether it's chicken or fish, and usually it's rotted, right? And they'll toss it out, tie the other end of that rope to something that's strong, whether it's a limb or a pole that's just jammed into the ground. And when you approach this, they usually leave it for a day or so, and they'll recheck the lines. And when you see this pole, that line jumping, you're like, okay, here we go. And you never know, is it going to be a small gator or it's going to be a giant gator? And when you get there and you're slowly pulling, and again, if you slowly pull, the gator comes to the boat real nice and easy. But if you're trying to pull it really hard, boom, it's going to run off. And now you're playing tug of war with a true dinosaur. Out of the water and looking at you like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy with all the teeth coming out.
What part of the alligator are you harvesting for meat?
The tail is usually really good, but a lot of people don't know that the cheeks are really sought after. Just like the cheek on a big fish, tuna, or any of that, they got a really tender meats right there and amazing. You can do many recipe with those parts. You do have the back strap and the legs. So depending on the size of the gator, if you want to smoke a whole one, a small one would be perfect. And just like anything else, it'd have the meat and the legs and the back strap and so forth too. But when you get that big, it's just you focus on where you can get the most meat and the ribs and yeah.
So, what is your favorite animal to hunt?
I was introduced to hunting, and my first was the white-tailed deer. How I probably spend more time chasing white-tailed deer than anything else, and how smart they are, how just the journey leading to the moment where you pull the trigger. That to me is very special. The preparation, the anticipation of the night before. You can't sleep because opening day is the following morning. You toss and turn all night long, dreaming of the different possibilities. Where's it going to come from? If you're a right-handed shooter, and it's going to come out from the right because that's where your worst spot. But yeah, I probably would say a white-tailed deer too.
Now, in terms of your work, the fact that you wanted to help folks, to flip it back into shooting, do you see shooters positioning that you can actually help them and say, look, this is what you're doing in this kind of positioning. You're binding this or that because of your training?
Yes, 100%. Structure determines function, poor structure, poor function. The dynamic has to be broken down and it has to make sense. If your posture or your fundamental is wrong, you cannot consistently produce the same great results. So when the person set up on a shot and you can just tell right off, okay, it's not gonna want to see because of how they're positioning. And then of course you got all the environmental factors and so forth that makes it different. But if you start out with strong fundamental, you start out with having the correct posture, right? That helps a lot.
I can imagine that you do have an eye for that given your training, because when you actually get in the right posture, your body feels it.
Yep. We did exercise where you stay on the scope and the alarm will go off and you have to shoot it and you're laying there for minutes on end. And if you're not in the right position, you're starting to shake, right? The target.
Yep. Yes.
And when the alarm go off, beep, and you engage and it go boom, and the recoil, just you set you back and go right back. It's much easier if you're in the right position with proper fundamental to come right back into the target to acquire the target versus search for that target again. And again, let you wait for minutes, and you'd be surprised how quickly you get fatigued.
And the thing that I think that kind of training does is the ethics. It's the ethical harvesting of animals. And what you just described is what we experience in the field, right? That we know an animal is there, but we're waiting for the best positioning so that we can make it the best ethical shot. Sometimes you got to hold that posture, that positioning for a good long while.
Yeah. Some of the bow hunter minutes, every second count. And even though, when you pull back and most of the weight is already let go, but you stay there for 5, 7, 10 minutes, it's really hard after a while.
Yeah, that's why I don't bow hunt. Even when I was playing football, they never claimed that Mike Arnold had an upper body strength. Ed, I know that you have a little one who has something that she is doing today, so I'm not going to keep you any longer, but I really want to thank you for being on Bringing Back the Wild, and thank you for sharing your story. What a wonderful story of redemption of a life that by coming to the U.S., but also through our Lord.
Amen. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate your friendship, your brotherhood, and everything that you're doing for the conservation and educating people and helping people understand. So bless. And if you ever need me, reach out.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
If this conversation meant something to you, please follow Bringing Back the Wild so you don't miss future episodes. Consider leaving a rating or sharing the podcast with someone who cares about wildlife and conservation. You can also visit MikeArnoldOutdoors.com for stories from the field, conservation-driven articles, and information about my books. I'm Mike Arnold. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.